This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might like department store Santas, we think they smell like beef and cheese. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I write about films for my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks, and a member of the North Texas Film Critics Association, as well as the International Film Society Critics. You can hear me guest on other pods of the David Thewlis of podcasting. I'm joined by my brother and common man co-host, a man who loves spaghetti and syrup for dinner and breakfast, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, bud.
How about you? I mean, every once in a while in movies when they're like, oh, this guy's weird and they'll do something food wise that's nasty. This is that scene kind of gets me a bit. Like, just the idea of, like, in theory, maple syrup on spaghetti probably isn't too weird, but it just,
yeah,
I'm not sure I want to try it.
Yeah. To me, it's kind of a
texture, a mashing of textures that doesn't seem to work.
No.
I'll
stick with the marinara sauce, I think.
I'm with you. We are continuing
Alfredo's a stretch. Let's not go to syrup.
We're continuing our Christmas miniseries all through the month of December. We had a good one, a nice family-friendly podcast episode that we'll probably say the F word too many times on. Today we are discussing the film Elf, directed by Jon Favreau, written by David Birnbaum, starring Will Ferrell, James Caan, Zooey Deschanel, Mary Steenburgen, Bob Newhart, and Ed Asner, co-starring Daniel Tay, Faison Love, Amy Sedaris, Michael Lerner, Andy Richter, Kyle Gass, and Peter Dinklage. Opened on November 7th, 2003. I looked up the box office for this, and I was really blown away by how successful it was. It was a monster. This is the first ever starring film for Will Ferrell. 173.4 million domestic, 47 international, 220 million on a $33 million budget. Did just fine for itself.
Did all right.
Not the kind of movie that really gets nominations. It gets some MTV Movie Awards, some Teen Choice Awards, those type of things, but it's not really the aspirations it went for. Really surprised at the Rotten Tomatoes spread for this one. 85% critics, 79 for audience. That
doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't really track. I thought for sure this is going to be like, okay, critics will be like in the 70s, 90s for audience. And I don't really get, like, this is, if there's an audience movie, this is an audience movie.
Yeah.
I guess.
Why? Who out there, like, has a problem with it? Like, I mean.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like,
who out there is like, oh, I hated it.
Elf sucks. No. Like, Elf? Like, who's mad about it? Like, even if you didn't like it, it's so inauspicious. You're like, well, it's you have strong feelings about your hatred for Elf. Like,
right.
We are not those people. We are not in the group of hatred for Elf. From 2003, I will give a quick plot summary. Elf is centered around Buddy the elf. On Christmas Eve in the 60s, I assume, an orphan baby crawls into Santa's sack at the side of a teddy bear, is unwittingly taken to the North Pole. They are raised as an elf in the workshop. Buddy grows up and is not very good elf considering, but he tries his best even though he's gigantic. And eventually he is told his father, named Walter Hobbs, is living in New York, and he's on the naughty list, and that's got to change. So off Buddy goes to the big city of New York to try to, some of the most memorable aspects is his traveling to New York. But he gets to New York to try to find his dad. His dad is a children's book publisher, and he is kind of a turd. And Buddy travels, tries to make nice, and he confirmed it's his son. And he meets his stepmother Emily, played by Mary Steenburgen, and his half brother Michael. that's played by Daniel Tay. And then he kind of falls for this shop girl played by a blonde Zoe Deschanel. Looking nice. The only time she's ever been blonde, I think, in a movie. It's very strange. This kind of going on, and the publishing company that Walter is, their Blaze book flops, and they hire kind of this children's book fixer played by Peter Dinklage, who is Peter Dinklage, a little guy, and Will Ferrell assumes he's an elf, and chaos ensues, and it causes Walter to essentially kick him out. And then as it's all kind of going around, Walter realizes his mistake, and on Christmas Eve, Santa tries to come in, but the lack of Christmas spirit is stopping his sleigh from working. He crashes in Central Park, and they all have to. There's a kind of a big sing along to make the Christmas spirit work back. Walter accepts him as his son, and Buddy eventually marries Jovi, the shop girl, and they have a kid, and then they write a book about Buddy's life, which becomes a bestseller. It's a little more complicated of a plot than the byline of Will Ferrell is an elf in it transported. Sure. That's essentially it's an elevator pitch movie. Hey, Will Ferrell is an elf, and nobody knows that elves are real, but he's an elf and he has the enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's I think the most like a super humorous aspect of this entire movie is, of course, if a big, tall, curly-headed dude dressed as an elf
acting like a child.
I just came from the North Pole, and I'm an elf. Yeah. I was raised as an elf.
Yeah. And you're just like, sure. And everybody goes, well, you're insane. You're obviously insane.
Well, everyone would have the exact same reaction as they do in The Office whenever he first shows up. And Walter Hobbs goes, call security.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, this guy, something's up with this guy. So whenever this movie is, this is such a, like I said, this is for Will Ferrell's first starring role. He's been in other stuff like it's an ensemble and supporting roles, but this is the first time it's like, this is a Will Ferrell movie. And this movie is so on his back to such a level that his enthusiasm and commitment to the bit makes everything work. He never breaks. He never has his serious moment. He's like, nope, I'm an elf. I don't care what anybody else is doing. I am an elf, and I believe it to my core. And that is the reason this movie works, because of Will Ferrell's absolute commitment to the role.
He completely displays a level of innocence that I couldn't. I mean, a real childlike innocence, naivete.
Yes.
Even I don't know what you want to call it, but I mean, it's, even though he's like a 6 something,
he's a big dude. Yeah.
Yeah. But you see him, and I mean, you believe the innocence.
Absolutely. That's the thing. He never breaks from it. He never winks at the camera. He never is like, no, I'm not like, no, he's an elf, and he believes it. And the whole time, even when he jokes, his jokes are on the level of what his character is doing. It's his belief in his elf nature is so on board with it. That's what makes it all funny, because nobody believes him. Nobody cares to believe him. They just think he's a wacko. And he's like, this is the truth. And it's because there's nothing that's making him question it. He is an elf. That's the thing of it. It's like Santa is the most important thing in life. Candy canes is a important food group. These things are known facts, and everything he does is so based with that. Like you said, it's very childlike.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like whenever he says, I went through the 7 layers of the candy cane forest, and people are like, what the hell? And he's like, No, I actually did it.
It's like, that's what I did. Yeah, yeah.
I'm just telling you how I got here. That's it.
Yes.
And
and half the appeal of that is not only like the childlike innocence and commitment to it. It's Farrell has this level of unbridled joy in this movie. It's infectious. Like his absolute enthusiasm, everything he does, you're like, yes, guy. It's like, hey, he's going down. And even when he's like, oh, he got drunk and he's down in the mailroom and he's
on
accident, but still really like for them two going, it's like, we should start a business together. So
oh man, that's a great scene.
But I mean, all that kind of stuff is his enthusiasm is he's never subdued. It's always essentially what it does is he makes Will Ferrell, he's like, you're an adult elf, but you have the energy and naivety of a child.
Yeah.
Go now, spin him up and go.
Yeah. And I really think Will Ferrell, like, why would you want to ever, like, as a director, turn him down. Like, let him run. And okay, maybe you're going to use up more tape. And stuff. But he's going to give you good ass shit. I guarantee.
It's funny because, you think about it and you don't necessarily associate Will Ferrell with a kid's movie, but this is very, very kid appropriate. This entire movie, nothing really goes, nothing violent, and the language is very minor language and stuff like that in these situations. Nothing of any. So this is by all means one of those movies that I will have like my kids have seen this and they'll see it again and they'll see it for years. And it's not something you have to stop that. Will Ferrell is so associated with kind of the dirty comedy. You don't really associate him with the kids aspect of it, but he's really good at it.
Well, yeah. And I think he adapts himself so well to this role where it's okay. I'm not going to be dirty humor. I'm not going to be crude, which I love all that.
Yeah. Of course. It's great. We talked about Step Brothers.
If our audience doesn't know, I appreciate some good crude humor.
Absolutely.
But he transitions very well in this movie, I think. And just nails his character where, this is a family-friendly character, something that needs to identify with children, the innocence of Christmas overall.
Yes.
Just the hope, the belief, the wonderment, like all of that. I think this movie does a great job.
This movie is about
going right into that.
The idea of innocence versus cynicism. Like it's this force of it, obviously James Caan being the cynic is like, well, I've lived in this world, business is failing, there's realism, all that kind of like the darkness inherent of being beaten down all the years, and the absolute innocence of knowing, nope, Santa is a daily thing for me, and that is the love of that's my hope, and it's just those clashing together, and that's what makes it so fun. Like the idea of Will Ferrell picking up the phone is like, Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? It's like, that's so annoying. Stop it. And it's adorable for us to watch.
Yeah, really. I think this movie, not to get too gushy about it.
Yeah.
But like, I think James Caan represents how most of us as adults can get.
Yes.
You get focused on work, the hustle, the bustle.
Yep.
And then, the absolute contrast is, no, Christmas is the best.
Yeah.
And, oh, no, singing's fun. It's just longer and louder. And, why
do you look like that? I'm smiling. Smiling's the greatest thing in the world. Exactly. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I mean, yeah.
So I do think this movie kind of, at least to me, kind of serves as a reminder of like how distracted adults can get at Christmas, but really what we all really want it to be is have Buddy's attitude.
Yes, it's just so like there's so many aspects of Christmas that it's like the tediousness of decorating, and
Mhm.
he tears through a night and puts to all this elaborate, and he's like, you know what? It was so much fun to do because look at all, kind of, you just think of it in those terms of like, how about the unbridled joy? It's like, hey guys, Santa's going to be Santa. Just the,
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I know him.
I know
I
him.
know
I
him.
know him. Yes. That's infectious joy. And I really like what you're touching on. I really like, I had in my own life, I had kind of experienced this previously with Halloween, because as an adult, like there's Halloween as a kid is great. It's so great as a kid. As a teenager, it's kind of boring, but it's fine. Your 20s, it's really fun again because you get to dress up and drink.
And look at chicks dressing up as sluts.
Slutty Halloween costume. It's great. Then when
because no matter what they are, it's a slutty version.
Slutty version. Yes.
That's my most favorite time of Halloween.
When you're in your 20s, that's fun. But then
I'm old.
Yeah, but now we're older and we have kids, it becomes work almost. Like it's like you have to all this stuff to, running around, all that kind of stuff. And I had always kind of put myself in like, it's Halloween, I don't like Halloween, all this kind of stuff. And I kind of had I had to stop myself and go, listen, this is not about like
this isn't
about me. Get into the mood of it and make yourself like it, because it's not helping anybody. So when and it's much more enjoyable when you get into that mood. Same thing with Christmas. Christmas, especially for parents, is a lot of work. Is a lot of work. And the enthusiasm is very easy to rub down to kids. And that's why, like, obviously in this movie, his brother, his half brother, Michael is the one on board with Buddy almost from the beginning. And even him, he was a little cynical to start. Like it took a little bit of getting, it was like, okay, now I'm on board with what Buddy likes, his enthusiasm. And
he showed his bona fides in the snowball fight.
Yes,
that was enough for Michael.
Yeah. It's like, cool, we're down with this.
All right,
this. Yeah,
you're my brother. You're my elf brother now.
Did we just become best friends to borrow another word?
Yeah.
So because Will Ferrell is so tuned up to 100 this whole time. Now, tuned up to 100, he's not unbearable. That's the impressive part about this. He's not really annoying. He's just fun and enthusiastic. It's essentially if a 12-year-old was 6 foot tall. So, but on the rest of the supporting cast, my dirty little secret about this movie, I think James Caan is bad in this movie. I don't think he's very good. I don't think he tries. Like, I think he went into it going a little too like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. And he took it a little too seriously. Like, I'm not saying he's a perfect contrast to what Will Ferrell is doing, but he's so uncharismatic. Even when he turns, he's not really like, hey, I'm a happy dad now. And it's like, no, you're still kind of a turd.
It's true. Like, maybe if they had given him another few scenes for him to kind of redeem himself, or
he just kind of turns, and that's that. Yeah, like
it's like, I'm playing the piano, it's fine.
Like Emily, Mary Steenburgen's Walter's wife, she nails exactly like, well, he's he might be disturbed, but he's family, and we got to love him, and she still has that little bit of hope for the lack of cynicism. And now Jovi is kind of I'm going to say my favorite scene, one of the more memorable scenes that doesn't have any laughter in it, is whenever Buddy almost walks into the bathroom while she's showering and they sing Baby It's Cold Outside. And it's like, oh, that's a sweet little duet. And then you read the words and realize it's like, are you just hanging out outside her shower? And
and she says, like, so why were you in the female locker room? And he's like, I heard you singing. And she's like, are you sure that had nothing to do with me being naked? He's like, I didn't know you're naked. And well, she was in the shower, but
yes.
I mean, he is so innocent.
Yes.
It's like, oh, she's singing in there behind a curtain. And so
it's so childlike. It's like where sexuality is not something that enters into the head. Like it's
Yeah.
It's there's a scene in Home Alone early where Macaulay Culkin is looking through like a Playboy and he opens it up and he goes, whatever, and just goes on to whatever stuff he's going. Like, it's just not, he's 8 years old. Why would he care about a Playboy? And it's same thing. It's just like, it's not, oh, you're being all, no. It's a nice, sweet, romantic thing.
And he really doesn't, he doesn't even get to like the romance level until they're ice skating. Yeah. And he risks a kiss on the cheek. And then she's like,
you missed.
Well, no, you're a grown man.
Yeah. Why would you kiss me on the cheek? Exactly. And she still has to bridge that gap the whole time. She's like, well, okay, well, get on board with what this is. She's really sweet in the movie. She has a great singing voice. She actually makes music. She makes music outside of this. The band's She and Him. She's really good doing all that kind of stuff out there.
Yeah, beautiful voice.
Beautiful voice. Very, very unique to her. So there's a number of supporting characters in this movie that I really enjoy. You have Bob Newhart as Papa Elf, being just the sweetest Bob Newhart he always is. Ed Asner as Santa Claus. We got Amy Sedaris as Walter's secretary.
Deborah.
I like Deborah. She's good in this movie.
Oh, I love her in this.
Andy Richter and Kyle Gass as the co-workers of Walter. I think Kyle Gass pitches the asparagus who are anxious about how their pee smells. Artie Lang as the fake Santa Claus.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the funniest parts is whenever
that was almost my opening, by the way.
Buddy confronts him and he's like, you sit on a throne of lies.
That was almost my thing. That was my almost opening. Yeah.
You stink. You smell like beef and cheese.
Yes.
You don't smell like Santa. And I'm like, did he just come from Arby's?
He had a beef and cheddar. Ripped a bite and came over. I mean,
he's like, I'm gonna have to be at the mall all day.
And then, but my personal favorite, the man who is the only person who can steal a scene from Will Ferrell, Peter Dinklage, coming in, throwing 101, just with heat off the corner. Man, that guy comes in, and as soon as you see him, so this is before Peter Dinklage became Peter Dinklage. So this is 2003. The same year or the year before, he had kind of become famous for these a pair of movies. He did a British movie called Death at a Funeral, where he was playing an American in a British ensemble, but really impressive in that one. And then he was in a movie called The Station Agent, which kind of was his big breakthrough. And you're like, hey, there's a dwarf actor. That's cool. Like, it's just, and then he comes in here, and as soon as you see him, you go, oh no. Like this is this isn't
gonna go good.
This is gonna go well. And I mean, so I want to read his whole line here. So he comes in and he says, it's like, hey, you're an elf, and it's like, did you have to borrow a reindeer to get down here and all this kind of stuff? And he says, hey, Jackweed, I get more action in a week than you've had in your entire life. I got houses in LA, Paris, and Vail, and each one a 70-inch plasma screen. So I just you wipe that stupid smile off your face before I come over there and smack it off. You feeling strong, my friend? Call me an elf one more time. And
he's an angry elf.
And then him.
No, I love it when he's like, he's saying like, I've got, for most of us, if someone said, hey, listen, I've got a house in Vail in France and wherever, and I've got,
oh, it's impressive.
I've got these TVs and stuff. You'd be like, this douchewagon. But I love whenever Will Ferrell is like, ooh, like
it's so fancy.
Like,
ooh, new houses. Like
he's actually like proud of them or something.
Yeah, good for you. And then, whenever he jumps up at the table to come on and beat the hell out of him, Will Ferrell going, look at you. And then he proceeds to beat the hell out of him. That's the best part. The fact that it wasn't like, oh no, Buddy's actually going to fight him and win. No. Miles Finch. And then obviously the last couple of years in Game of Thrones has really turned him around. I love I love Peter Dinklage. Anytime he seems like a really intelligent guy, goes out of his way to do roles like this, where he's like, hey, you're going to be a book guy and they're going to call you an elf and you're going to beat the hell out of a guy. And he goes, sweet, sign me up for that. He doesn't do like munchkin roles or like those typical, he'll always do.
He does much more like intelligent, sophisticated, involved roles.
Yes. It did
instead of an Oompa Loompa or something.
Yes, exactly. Like he did they did a reimagining of Cyrano de Bergerac. Instead of the big long nose, he was a dwarf. So makes a lot of sense. Stuff like that. He was exceptional in that movie. You know, he was in the Avengers movies and all this kind of like in the Avengers movies, he's a dwarf, but he's, I think, 30 feet tall. So just for the sake of his perspective, it's those kind of little just transcending things. So what outside of Dinklage, who do you like? Who are you a big fan of in this movie?
Man, I always like Mary Steenburgen.
I do too. She just seems so wholesome
and
sweet. Yes.
And yes. I mean, she steps into this motherly role in this perfectly.
Yes.
Like, I mean, effortless.
So warm, so inviting. So as the kind of the buffer between Walter and Buddy. Like,
yeah.
Buddy, you can't really do that. And Walter, you got to keep it. And yeah.
There's a lot of actors where like I can think of, oh God, like Johnny Depp or who's the guy that played Joker last time?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. It's like guys like that. I don't think they have to act that much.
They go really hard.
I think you have to have that in you.
Yes.
To get it done.
Yeah.
Now my point is, on the opposite of that is, I think she normally plays a wonderful person, and it feels like she doesn't have to. She's not forcing it.
Yes, I agree. It comes across very naturally. It's like it's like, hey, nice lady, you want to play a nice lady? It's like, sure, I'll play a nice lady. Like,
sure.
So he's like, hey, you've been married to Ted Danson for 30 years. There's nothing like you don't have to worry about anything in life. You're a nice, chilled out lady. Everybody seems to like you. Do you want to do this again? It's like, absolutely. I mean, that's a good way to put it.
And on the opposite side of the coin, like I was saying, if you go to Joaquin Phoenix and say, hey, do you want to play a completely insane person? It's like, well, I already am. So
did I tell you I grew up in a commune? Absolutely. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah. So, exactly. That's a good way to put it. It's not really much of a stretch, but I mean, she's staying in her lane and she stays in it so well.
Yes.
Yeah. There's never been a movie where Mary Steenburgen is in it and I'm just like, Mary Steenburgen is like, yes, Mary Steenburgen. Yes, let's do this. Yeah.
You gotta love Ed Asner in this.
Oh, he's so good. Like,
as well, because he just, it's, I mean, I don't know if it's the writing, the acting, probably a combination of both, but it's like when he's trying to fix his sleigh and then Buddy runs up on him unexpectedly in the park. He turns around with a tire jack. Yeah. So he's not this completely innocent Santa.
It's like, so you're telling me Santa's been carjacked before? Like he was ready for it. And he's like, I'm in New York City. I'm not dumb. It's the great thing about Ed Asner. This is 2003 and you're watching this movie and you're like, he probably didn't have a whole lot of years to go. And he passed away last August. So he still made it another 18 years. Always love Ed Asner. I really love Bob Newhart is such a singular delivery and his stuttery confidence, if that makes any sense. It's like, like it's the only way I can ever, nobody copies Bob Newhart, what he does. Like, he's just like, he's like, well, I'm doing this thing and that's what I'm doing. Like, it's quiet confidence, quiet confidence, but the stuttering is disarming and it kind of takes it away. It's yes, I agree. They're having those two in there is so perfect. Also, I really love the claymation right at the beginning. Whenever on the in between, it's great.
Yeah, and that really, I thought they did a great job of tying into nostalgia.
Yes,
because of course all the Christmas specials we grow up watching were all claymation. Rudolph, Frosty.
Yes,
I mean all that whole era. I think they really tied that in well, and really, to me, I think they made this. That helped make this a neo classic. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Like
an instant classic.
Yes. The second it came out, everybody's like, well, we're going to watch this every year for the rest of our lives. That's just one of the things you're going to do. So that claymation features my favorite line in the whole movie. It's like, bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad. Thanks, Narwhal. Like, it's just,
yeah. Well, I love, what is it? The penguin is crying and it's just ice cubes.
Those little tricks in between are always fun. So the guy who plays the doctor is Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau also directed this movie. This was his second movie he ever directed. He directed a movie called Made back in 2001. It was kind of a semi sequel to Swingers with him and Vince Vaughn. Wasn't very well received, didn't make a whole lot of money. Made a sequel to Jumanji set in space a couple of years later called Zathura. Kristen Stewart was in it as a kid. Not very well received. So at that point, he only made 3 movies. He made Made, Elf, but Elf had made so much money. It's like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, well, can I try a superhero movie? Iron Man, maybe? And everybody kind of goes, okay. And he was instrumental in hiring Robert Downey Jr. to be Iron Man. And Iron Man is what it is. It starts the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. He makes Iron Man 2. And then from there, he kind of messes around with stuff. He did the Cowboys and Aliens movie we talked about before that didn't get much reviews. He made like a personal type movie called Chef about like a guy who runs a food truck. And then he went into then he got on board with Disney and he made The Jungle Book and The Lion King. And the critical reception on those weren't very big, but they made so much money. I want to say The Lion King made upwards of $1.5 billion. So
yeah, and probably just that name recognition.
Yes. And essentially like the live action versions of that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good, that's something good to hit your wagon to, I guess.
Yes. $1.66 billion worldwide
Holy
for The
crap.
Lion King. The Jungle Book, not as much, but did make, I don't know. You can't put it in the same category. Only made 966 million. So,
is that it?
So that you're talking about, you're talking about $2.5 billion between the last 2 movies he's directed. Yeah. And then he creates The Mandalorian.
I did just watch The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
The first time like 2 weeks ago. I liked it. I thought it was really well done.
I still haven't seen it. I've heard nothing but good things. I've heard it's pretty well done and I like the idea behind it. I have not heard anything good about The Lion King. Everybody I know who's seen it is like,
I haven't seen it.
It's the exact same beats of the cartoon and none of the emotional fun essentially, and none of the songs. But then after that, he goes and he creates The Mandalorian for the Star Wars universe, and Mandalorian's great. I love The Mandalorian. It's always, Star Wars space Western. So all that fun stuff. So, right. So if you ever think, if you're ever looking in, like episodes of Friends and you're like, hey, Jon Favreau's there, you can look at that and go, hey, the 6 members of Friends and Jon Favreau, who probably has more money than the other 6 friends. So, and
no kid
between Star Wars and the Disney movies, he is doing just fine.
Surpassed everyone.
And Iron Man, yes, absolutely. So I mean, and it's so funny because Elf is not exactly the type of movie you're like, oh well, this is obviously a guy who's going to make Star Wars movies.
Yeah, and he's got a cameo appearance as a doctor that does a DNA test.
Keeps eating the cotton balls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's like, okay, it'll just be a little prick. And then Will Ferrell's like, woo! He's like, ooh, a little prick. And then he hits up and just goes insane.
It's always those are the fun
The
little
boy.
things. That's the fun little things about those movies. The fun little things about all the little aspects of the childlike nature that makes him that much fun in this movie. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back. All right, we are back. It is time for my favorite segment each week. Each week, I go through the filmography of the filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass. This week, we are tackling the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Will Ferrell, the star of this film, and obviously from Saturday Night Live. Had a little slow start to his cinematic career, as is kind of the case a lot of times with people coming off of Saturday Night Live. Sometimes they don't just naturally get right to it.
Mhm.
You know, you have like guys like Eddie Murphy who just immediately had like hit after hit after hit after hit. And you're like,
Right.
okay, that's just what's going to happen. That wasn't really the case with him. He started out, well, obviously on Saturday Night Live. His first co-starring role he was still on Saturday Night Live. It was in 1998, a great sketch, a not great movie, A Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah.
There's a reason it works as a Saturday Night Live sketch, because after about 5-10 minutes, it loses its luster.
Yeah. You don't need 2 hours of it.
No, you don't. I agree. But so he's finally, he's at least on the board with Night at the Roxbury. He gets something going there. So after Night at the Roxbury, he kind of starts to be on film more often. And based on that, he kind of tries to, he's like in Austin Powers and The Ladies' Man. But the next one I want to talk to you about is the ma'am at the role that kind of like, okay, there's something to Will Ferrell as an actor in films, as Mugatu in Zoolander.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, I mean, Zoolander is, Zoolander has the worst timing in the history of film. It's a movie that everybody seems to love. And then you look and you're like, why did it not make any money? And then you look up, you're like, okay, well, Ben Stiller's in it. There's a lot of fun stuff. The Owen Wilson part of it. What was the problem? Oh, it released 2 weeks after September 11th. And people weren't ready to laugh yet. So
No.
It's it's on TV all the time. It's a lot of fun. It's eminently quotable, and Farrell's great in it. So so after Zoolander, you're like, okay, he could really be something. Now, the first time I've seen him in a movie, and I'm like, this guy, every time he's on screen, he's the only thing I care about. That was the next year, and that was an Old School. Everything he does in Old School is so friggin' hilarious. Just like, do you have a good good time? I had an awesome time. Just
the whole town knew you had an awesome time.
Yes. I mean, and his unabashed, like his lack of vanity. He's like, oh, I look stupid. I'm gonna be naked. I'm gonna run through. It's no big deal. Like, just
gloriously singing a Kansas song at a funeral for a Navy veteran.
And I graduated the year after Old School came out, and people were still yelling "You're my boy, Blue" at like high school graduation. It was the thing to say. So I mean,
well, and real quick, I do chemical application. We have to put a blue dye in it. And so I'm often dyed blue. And one time I came home and was dyed blue, and that's what my wife told me.
You're my boy. Old School's of all the kind of like the raunchy comedies, for some reason, Old School kind of gets lost in the shuffle of all those. I love Old School.
I do too.
It's it's one of those. You're like, when you saw it, it was funny. You watch it again, it's still funny. It really holds up. You just don't see it on as much these days.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be one of these things that like you show it to your kids and you're like, oh, this was the greatest thing.
You're like,
and
is it though?
It's the equivalent of like our parents showing us like
Rocky Horror or
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "What were y'all watching?" But
Say, why are you laughing at Vince Vaughn saying cheese? It's like because it's funny. Like, yeah, it might be a have to be there movie. You're right.
it does it for me.
Yeah, I agree. So 2003, Old School and Elf together, and then the next year, he makes his magnum opus, the movie he will forever be known for, a movie I watched in the theater with you and our other brother, and we had the best time. Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Oh my God.
Man, just from let's see, it was 2004. So I was 18, you were 20, our brother was 16. I mean, you want to talk about the perfect time for us three to be in a movie theater watching a movie. It is.
Yeah. We were the target audience.
And it was perfect.
It worked.
It worked to a T. I will defend Anchorman till my dying day. It is
absolutely.
And I don't want to watch the sequel. I haven't seen it. I don't want to watch it.
I have, and yeah.
It's not gonna ruin anything. I just don't want no. So after Anchorman, everybody's like, okay, so money, he has money now and he can really start to do stuff and he has like star power. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's try to put him in some like acclaimed stuff. So they had him as a man who writes a play about Nazis for the film adaptation of the movie The Producers. Have you seen The Producers?
No.
It's not terrible. He does well in it. I think he got a Golden Globe nomination for it. Like it's these music producers want their next Broadway show to fail for tax purposes. So they have to find the worst thing they can possibly find. And they find a play called Springtime for Hitler. And Will Ferrell is the one writing it. But it's the play in the original movie from the 70s is much better, but regardless. So that same year, at the same time, he does stuff like this, but he also stays in his lane. How about the soccer dad movie, Kicking and Screaming?
Yes.
So it's the first time I ever saw a Will Ferrell movie where I'm like, okay, he is a lot. Like, I understand where people are like, I don't like Will Ferrell. Kicking and Screaming is the one where I'm like, I understand what you mean with that. Like, he's just tuned up to 1,000 and nobody's stopping him. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
no, I thought it was a hilarious movie, and especially since having kids and being involved in sports and seeing some of these insane parents and everything. I really liked it.
I agree.
And I love the rivalry between
him and Robert Duvall.
Yes. And but then he hates Mike
Mike Ditka. Mike Ditka's
Mike Ditka's his next door neighbor, and they hate each other too. No, yes, I've seen it, and I liked it.
Okay, so I'm not going to include it, but same year, just as an uncredited cameo in 2005, as Chaz in The Wedding Crashers. I know you've seen it. He comes in so hilariously in that movie. Mom, Meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
Exactly. I knew it was coming. So yes.
And by the way, I just really pissed off my wife.
It's like, what are you talking about? Yes. So the next year comes with probably his most successful version of serious-minded films, a movie called Stranger Than Fiction. I think I've talked about this before. He plays a literary character who is actually real. He is just a guy going around, and all of a sudden he hears the narration of a book in his head, and it's a good movie. I highly it's the best case scenario it's a dramatic type character, but it's what he does well.
More serious. Yeah. I remember seeing some previews on it, but no, I never saw it.
I defend Stranger Than Fiction. I like it. But again, back to his roots, goes 3 for 3 with the next 3 big movies he does, all sports related. Starting off with Talladega Nights.
Yep.
and never know what to do with my hands when I'm talking. There's a
Like
lot
when
of,
we first started our podcast, that's how I was. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I still don't know what I'm doing, but
how about
packs of wild dogs,
packs of wild dogs? It's like I'll spin
no
kick,
blindness, and
I'll-
cats.
spider kick was spin kick you in the face. I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew. All the like a lot of good
If you
lines.
don't like Big Red, then fuck you.
There's it. I like the lines. I like the lines in the movie more than I like the actual plot. Like
Right.
the lines are really great and all that kind of stuff. And there's the scene, where he's like, I'm totally paralyzed, and stabs himself in the leg. And he's like, let's put another knife in there. It might help it get the other one out. And
Do yourself a favor and look up the bloopers of that scene.
absolutely. Oh, they can't keep it together.
Yeah. Michael Clark Duncan, John C. Reilly, Will Ferrell,
Just
and
kidding.
he's stabbing himself in the leg. Enjoy.
I'll if you're watching the YouTube video, you'll see in the top corner over here, I'll have a link to that video. So I'll add that at this point.
Superb.
Yes. All right. How about the figure skating comedy Blades of Glory?
Yeah.
I remember Jenna Fisher being in it, looking very nice. That's about the only thing I remember of the movie.
Pretty much.
I remember going in there going like, oh, that was fun. And then probably never thinking of it again.
Yeah.
On the other side, a movie that it's on TV a lot and I like watching it, Semi-Pro.
Ooh, I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever watched it.
Yeah, it's he's a basketball player in the ABA. Woody Harrelson's in there doing, having fun. Andre 3000 is the other star player. It's a good, like it's fun. It's better than Blades of Glory. It doesn't reach the levels, but it has some fun parts. Jake, have you seen this little movie he's done? I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Step Brothers.
It rings a bell.
Independent. Obviously we did the podcast on it. I'm gonna again click right here. Maybe you're gonna go watch the Step Brothers episode. So the magic.
Definitely check it out. It's
that was a fun episode to do.
It was.
So one of his last collaborations with a longtime friend and director Adam McKay, a mismatched pair of Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. How about the other guys?
Love it.
I love the other guys too, because it's I didn't know Mark Wahlberg had the capacity for funny, and
I didn't either.
And he is great in the movie. It's like, I'm a peacock, you gotta let me fly. All that, just the continually asking. He's like, no, seriously, who's your wife? Like, who is this? Like, the Ava Mendez of it all. And
yeah, that is gold.
It's great.
And from my perspective, I love a cop movie that just has fun with it.
Yes,
completely.
It's like, we're not serious cop. Like, they're dumb cops, they're smart cops. It's just shenanigans.
Yeah, it's. I mean, who's The Rock and
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, they just jump off of a building, and then next scene is their funeral. You're like, why did they think that was going to work?
And they jump off the building in slow motion to My Hero from Foo Fighters while it's playing, and then they hit the ground very violently.
And then it's just bagpipes playing like at a police funeral. Yeah.
So after the other guys, he makes Anchorman 2. And like you said, you had seen that one.
Yes.
The last couple of years, he reteamed with Mark Wahlberg. Have you seen the film Daddy's Home?
Yes.
I have not. I think I have seen I've seen the first one. They made a second one with their dads. I think Mel Gibson plays Mark Wahlberg's dad, and John Lithgow plays Will Ferrell's dad. But I haven't seen that one. But I had seen the first Daddy's Home. But it's so unmemorable. I don't exactly remember much of it.
Yeah, not his most memorable work, but yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so reteaming with his co-star from Wedding Crashers, though I don't think they shared any scenes, with Rachel McAdams, came out, I believe, 2 years ago. How about Eurovision on Netflix?
No, but if Rachel McAdams is in it, I am gonna check it out.
So it's cute. It's Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams are like these Scandinavian friends, and they're singers. And they said, we're going to get together and go try to win the Eurovision contest, which is like American Idol for Europe, but they do by country. And so they decide they're going to go try to win Eurovision after their little fishing village, and hijinks ensue, romantic stuff. I liked it. It's a good movie. There's a lot of music in it, but like fun music. It's like a lot of good stuff. I like Eurovision. I highly recommend it. And the most recent film Will Ferrell has been in just came out a couple weeks ago on Apple. I know our mother has seen it. Have you seen Spirited?
No.
But did you say
wait? No, yes, I did.
Him and Ryan.
Yeah, it's the Scrooge.
Yes, and I believe
Scrooge thing.
Christmas Carol. Yes.
Yeah. A Christmas Carol remake.
Yes.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty damn funny.
Good. I haven't gotten around to it. I know I need to. It's just whenever it came out, I think it was like late October, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch a Christmas movie in October. Now that it's closer to Christmas, I might be more inclined to actually watch it. So still obviously working plenty. Does a lot of producing these days. Like I said, just in Spirited as the ghost of Christmas Present. He will be in Jake's favorite film of 2023, Barbie. We've talked about that previously with Margot Robbie and starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. So that should be a lot of fun there. But still working hard, always fun to see Will Ferrell in movies doing different things. So you did a great job. Unsurprisingly, 12 out of 16 for Pull for a Dumbass, only missing the producer, Stranger in Fiction, Semi-Pro, and Eurovision. So a pretty good spread there all the way around. 12 out of 16. You should be proud of yourself.
Oh, well, I am. Thank you. No, I'm a Will Ferrell guy.
You wake up in the morning, you piss excellence.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. I think it's that time.
Yeah, I think it is too. I hate to break it to you, but get in the hot box, dude.
Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's just trivia. Sometimes it is not. What you got for me today, buddy?
Have you ever been hit by a car?
I have not been hit by a car. If I have to rack my brain, I can almost tell you no. I don't think it. Now, me and you are both. We've been runners and we've run in the street. Uh-huh. I've had a couple of close calls. A lot of buzz. For some reason, whenever you're going down the street as a runner, sometimes cars just want to buzz the tower. I don't know why. It's just as a couple times I've had to go and a car has flown past me and or they haven't paid attention.
It's bad when you can see your face in their mirror as they go past.
So I was at a gym the other day, and our gym is in a like a outlet mall parking lot essentially. Mm-hmm. And whenever we do any sort of running, you have to cross a crosswalk, which is pretty busy. And I am running with two other guys. One of these guys is 6'2", maybe 260. And the other guy is a 6'4" Army Ranger. So, and then me, who's 6 foot tall. So we're running and a car doesn't miss it comes by and doesn't see any of us. It's like, we're in no way small guys. Luckily the Army Ranger was in front. So if it had hit him, it would have hurt the car more than it would have hurt us.
Probably. Yeah.
But I mean, I had a couple of those.
That's one of my favorite scenes is whenever he gets nailed by the taxi.
Yeah.
And then later on, he's like, watch out. The yellow ones don't stop.
So apparently all those scenes, they essentially didn't get a permit for what they were doing. They would just go around and find random New Yorkers and be like, hey, can you react to this or whatever? And they would do things like him going dodging traffic and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that is great.
Can you imagine if you're like driving around a big city and you see Will Ferrell in an elf costume crossing the street? Like, what would you?
Well, apparently, whenever he was walking through the Lincoln Tunnel, there were several minor traffic accidents because of that exact thing. Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, exactly. I can't imagine. It would stop me dead.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, I think the quote is the best way to spread Christmas cheer is to sing loud for all to hear something.
To hear, yes, sir.
All right. So that being said, what is your favorite Christmas song? A song that encapsulates the season, if you will.
So it's kind of funny whenever I think of like the song I so associate with Christmas, and like if I am in a car and it's cold outside and there are Christmas lights on, and I hear "Oh Holy Night," I'm like, man, that's it. It's like the atmosphere of "Oh Holy Night" just gets me. It's so. Oh man, that's a great one, and it ebbs and flows, and man, it just really gets me going. Like I'm
fall on your knees.
Yes, the fall on your knees is exactly the first thing I think of. And then if you have a good version of it and somebody just belting it, it's great.
Yeah.
So is that the is that the one for you, or do you have one? Yeah. I don't know why. Like I don't know why it's Holy Night. It's just so good. And we grew up on essentially when we went on Christmas vacation, our parents were in control of the radio and they played the Amy Grant Christmas album, and that's all they played. And I know all those songs beat for beat, but I'm not sure I could say a single song of hers. I really like her Winter Wonderland version. That's probably be a close one, but I mean, Oh Holy Night's always the default.
Yeah. And we primarily grew up on, religious
hymn movie. Yeah.
Christmas hymns.
So it's,
but yeah, of course, nothing wrong with Frosty the Snowman.
Absolutely not. Or
up on the rooftop or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, we're simpatico on that one.
I like it.
All right. Well, good news. I saw a dog today. Have you ever seen a dog? Of course you have. I just thought that was hilarious. Good news. I saw a dog today.
All those random, like, is that where he's,
it's where he goes to Michael's school.
Oh, that's right. It's like does he have do you have any friends? Do you have a best friend? Does he have a big coat too? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That unbridled enthusiasm. That's a good one.
Here you go. Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color?
I remember there was somebody who took a lie detector test, and they said, "What's your favorite color?" And he said whatever the color was, and it was like, "That says it's a lie." And he goes, "Would you like to revise that?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm an adult and I don't have a favorite color. Who cares anymore?"
Right. I don't give a shit.
But it's probably blue. It's always been blue. Like I've always kind of associated like you of more of a green. Like whenever we were kids, our parents kind of differentiated it in that kind of way. It's like, okay, Ben gets the blue stuff, Jake gets the green stuff, James is more red or yellow or something like that. Yeah. So it was always funny how they kind of did that. I don't think they did it on purpose, but it was just kind of the thing, the identity.
I think Mom had 3 young boys and she had to keep their shit separate.
Yeah, exactly. Ben's all blue. Yeah, exactly. So I always default to blue.
Yeah. And I tend to go with green.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You're correct. Yeah. All right. So I've got 2 kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
My niece and nephew, who I absolutely love, and I know they're good kids, great kids. So I already know the answer to this, but does Santa come to y'all's house every year?
Oh yes. I mean, it doesn't matter where we are. Santa comes to the house. We have, last year we spent Christmas in a hotel and Santa still figured out a way to get there. Yeah, Santa's coming every year, especially because my kids are so well behaved, like you said.
Yeah, when you got such good kids,
it's easy.
He'll track you down.
Yeah, that's not hard. And so yes, absolutely, still rocking it every year. And frankly, it's like the Halloween thing I was saying. It's like at this point, I'm like, you know what, I want to hang on to it a little longer than I probably should, but it just
I still believe.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. He comes in. He's always made it where we are.
Yeah.
So, all right. Obviously, this movie is entitled Elf.
Mhm.
I don't know about your house, but every year, we have two elves that come every night, and they go back to the North Pole and
do the reporting.
And so, one of ours is named Twinkle Toes, and the other one is actually named Buddy.
Sure.
So I was wondering if y'all had elves come to y'all's house.
We do not have elves, actually. We threaten our children with physical violence unless they're behaved, so we don't have to worry about the elves.
There you go.
No, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but from what I understand, it's a lot of work. Like the elf.
I don't do anything. I go to sleep. I assume they fly to the North Pole. Sometimes do they make a mess? Yes, but I wake up and there they are. And
I'm always very.
I don't do any work.
I'm always very impressed with somebody else's, like the elves in other houses that like. Oh, they're in toaster ovens and they're, like the cute little things that elves do in other houses. We don't have elves in our houses. I guess our kids are too well behaved, but maybe next year.
That would be my assumption. I mean,
yeah.
Your kids don't need much monitoring.
Yeah.
My kids are little shits. They need a couple elves.
I like it.
All right. What's another name for reindeer?
Oh no. Oh, man, is this a line from the movie?
No. It's a bit more.
Oh, the actual. Okay.
Biologically correct.
Man. Yes.
Term for a reindeer.
Oh man. It has such a specific name. I'm not going to look it up. Boy, do I want to.
Because we'll see whitetails around here, and kind of
looks
kids,
like it.
Kids are like reindeer.
I almost said caribou.
That's it.
It's caribou. Okay.
It's a caribou.
Okay.
Yeah,
caribou. Okay, so yeah.
They look entirely different from whitetails in Texas or mule deer or antelope or anything.
What specifically makes them characteristically different?
Their coloration is completely different. They've got a lot more hair. They're shorter and they have the their antlers
back and around.
Kinda.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. But they were bred for being reindeer, meaning they're on reins.
Oh,
so,
okay. Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense.
But Ben, you're free to go.
Christmas spirit. We are just about done with this episode. Before we go, Jake, what is your film rating of Elf?
Absolutely love it. It's hilarious. It's sweet, heartwarming.
A Christmas classic.
It's great, and you don't have to worry about a single thing in it. If you got kids in the room or anything like that,
and you don't need kids in the room. It's fun without the kids.
Exactly. Yeah. As an adult, you can sit there and love it just as much as they do. So, it's wonderful. I really love it.
I do too. 4.0 out of 5.0. Even like digging into the critical aspects, it's so wonderful. And I say it unjokingly, completely serious. It's Will Ferrell's best performance. He is so committed to it, and it's the perfect role for the perfect person. and the perfect encapsulation of it. It's Will Ferrell at his absolute best. Never not great whenever Elf is on TV.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yes. That just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic and the Common Man. Thank you so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebIsBen, on Letterboxd at Neb810, on Instagram, Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, icecreamforfreaks.com, as you can also follow my other writings of the Film Experience and Cinema Scholars. More movie reviews coming out at the end of the year. Got a review of the new Brendan Fraser movie called The Whale. He plays a 600-pound man, and it is not exactly the most enjoyable of films, but a very interestingly made film. More films coming at the end of the year as well. You can also find me on other pods on the Daily Fools of Podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you? How many times did you have to traverse the candy cane forest before you got there?
Only once. I made it. My land navigation skills were pretty good, but
good to know.
Here lately, I'll be down in the mailroom getting drunk with the guy who's on work release.
That's a good one. That's a great scene in general. I forgot about that.
I love it. He's like, I have so many dreams. I'm only 26. And he's obviously like 50.
It's 40. Okay. It's like, oh, it's syrup. It's like that syrup. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Common Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast, audio and visual versions. We very much appreciate all the support. We will catch you next time when we finish off our Christmas miniseries, our last episode of the year. And we are going back as far as we'll probably ever go, all the way back to 1946 for the epitome of Christmas movies. It is It's a Wonderful Life. We're going to knock it out next week. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. Thank you all so very much. This is it. And we will be done. And then we'll be on to a whole new year. Thank you so very much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?